Greetings, fellow Dungeon Delvers, and welcome to Dorans and Dragons, where we work together to come up with Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition builds for your favorite League of Legends champions. Today we're building Renekton, the Butcher of the Sands. Renekton was a fearsome warrior whose deeds were legendary even prior to his ascension, and the younger brother of Nasus, the Curator of the Sands. When Nasus was struck with a crippling wasting disease, he was chosen for Ascension to help him avoid his terrible fate. During the ritual, Nasus was so debilitated he couldn't even make the climb to receive Ascension. Renekton didn't hesitate, and picked up his brother and carried him the rest of the way, knowing that doing so would likely end in his death. The Sun Disk did not obliterate Renekton though, and instead, both brothers ascended. Renekton rose as a powerful crocodilian warrior, and continued his legacy of brutal victory in combat. While Renekton and Nasus were out attempting to rein in an ancient escaped evil, the Emperor Azir was betrayed and murdered by Xerath. Renekton and Nasus did battle with Xerath until they realized he could not be defeated, only contained. Renekton dragged Xerath into the tomb of the Emperors and asked Nasus to seal them in forever. Nasus did so reluctantly and sealed them both away for thousands of years. During that time, Xerath whispered maddening thoughts about how Nasus only sealed him away out of jealousy of Renekton's greatness. Over the centuries, this slowly drove Renekton insane, and once they were both finally released, Renekton shot out into the desert, driven to slaughter anyone who stood in the way of him and Nasus. Before we get started with the build, go ahead and like the video and hit that subscribe button so you're always notified when we release our builds. We'd like to take a minute and thank our awesome patrons over on Patreon, who support us every month. Thanks for helping us keep the lights on and the hamsters running on their wheels. One of our rewards for our patrons is monthly homebrewed content. This month's homebrew is The Toxic Slums, based on Zon. We released last month's homebrew, Welcome to the City of Tomorrow, on a DM's Guild if you're interested in seeing that. Come join us over on Patreon if you're interested in supporting the channel and getting access to some great content. Alright, now let's get into it. First, let's cover the goals of this build. Boom, what up? We need to get the top lane crocodile out of the desert and into your game. We also need to bring Renekton's blade to bear and unleash the fury of the sands. Finally, we need to get super thick, so when we dive the backline, we're not blown up immediately. For race, we're going to go with lizard folk. Thanks to Tasha's, we're going to customize our racial ability score increases to give a +2 to strength and a +1 to constitution. Cunning Artisan allows you to take the parts of a slain creature to create simple weapons and shields. You can also flex your large lungs with Hold Breath, giving you a 15-minute breathing time. Hunter's Lore gives us 2 skill proficiencies of our choosing. We'll go with Perception and Survival to honor Renekton's time in the desert as a soldier. Natural Armor gives us a nice starting AC of 13 plus our dex. Renekton will be able to take a bite out of his brother with his teeth as a natural weapon, dealing 1d6 plus your strength mod in piercing damage. And finally, Hungry Jaws is going to empower us to use our bite as a bonus action, granting us temporary HP equal to our con mod if the attack hits. For background, we're going to go with Soldier. Renekton was a Shuriman infantryman who was a legend in combat and ascended beyond that. We get skill proficiencies with Athletics and Intimidation and the military rank feature. This gives us the respect and influence over soldiers who are loyal to Shurima, as well as welcoming into their camps and use of their equipment. Since Shurima is gone, Word of Your Deeds will hopefully help you cross that gap. For stats, we're going to embrace Nasus's logic and rationality and use the standard array. Roll if you want to, just to be sure to keep a 13 in strength for multi-classing purposes. Obviously, we'll be kicking things off with strength. Renekton is a powerful creature post-ascension and wasn't exactly a scrawny lightweight before either. We'll take Constitution next. Tankiness and strength are key components for any bruiser, and Renekton's no exception. After that, we'll honor Renekton's battle reflexes with Dexterity. Intimidation and the sheer utter terror of seeing a massive crocodile surging towards you makes Charisma our next stat. Then we'll take some Wisdom. Nasus did his best to impart some of his lessons to his brother before the madness set in. And finally, we'll dump Intelligence. Renekton's Fury has severely reduced his mental faculties. For equipment, we're going to go with a Greatsword to represent Renekton's long-bladed weapon. A Great Axe could also work, as they both deal slashing damage and are swinging weapons. Do whatever makes you happier here. Alrighty, now that we've got our equipment, let's kick off with a level in Fighter. Fighters have a d10 hit die and proficiencies with all weapons and all armor types as well as shields. We get to choose 2 skill proficiencies to pick up here, so we'll go with Acrobatics and Insight. Level 1 fighters also choose a fighting style. Since we're using two-handed weapons, we're going to go with Great Weapon Fighting, which will let you knock out those pesky 1s and 2s if you roll them for damage. Our final level 1 feature is Second Wind. This lets you heal 1d10 plus your fighter level as a bonus action once per rest. Remember to use this before hit die when you take a short rest. Combine this bonus action with your weapon attacks to get the healing from our Q, Call the Meek. Second level fighters get Action Surge. This is one of the best features in the game. It allows you to push yourself past your normal limits to take a second action on a turn once per rest. As usual, Action Surge is going to allow us to achieve a lot of our combos that we're going to use in this build. Level 3 fighters choose their martial archetype. We're going to unleash our ascended form with the Rune Knight. Rune Knights get proficiency with Smith's tools, and they know the language of giants. Speaking of giants, we get the Giant's Might feature. This is going to give us part of our R, Dominus. As a bonus action, your size becomes large. You have advantage on strength checks and saves, and once on each of your turns, one of your attacks can deal an extra 1d6 damage. You can do this as many times as your proficiency bonus, and they recharge on a long rest. Finally, with Rune Carver, you get the ability to etch runes onto your weapons and armors to enhance them. We'll pick up the Frost and Hill runes here. Frost gives advantage on animal handling and intimidation checks, and when you invoke it, it gives you a +2 to all strength and con checks and saves. The Hill rune gives advantage on not being poisoned, and you're resistant to poison damage. When you activate the rune, you have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage for 1 minute. You can invoke each of these once per rest. 4th level fighters unlock the first ability score improvement of the build. We're going to go with Martial Adept so we can sneak some Battlemaster into the build. This will give us 1d6 superiority die to use once per rest to use a maneuver. We'll take Trip Attack and Sweeping Attack maneuvers. Trip Attack allows us to force a strength save on any creature, large or small, whenever you hit it. If it fails, it's knocked prone. This is going to be our W, Ruthless Predator. Sweeping Attack is another way to achieve our Q. When you hit a creature, you can try and hit another one using your superiority die. If the initial attack roll were to result in a hit against that creature as well, it takes the number you rolled on your superiority die and damage. Level 5 fighters get extra attack. This gives us some attack speed, letting us get off 2 attacks per action instead of just 1. Alrighty, now that we've established a strong base in fighter, let's change gears into Barbarian to unleash some of the rage Xerath tapped into while we were trapped with them. Barbarians have a d12 hit die, and we gain no new proficiencies. Level 1 Barbarians unlock their iconic Rage mechanic. As a bonus action, you enter our Rage, giving you a few benefits. You have advantage on strength checks and saves, each weapon attack deals bonus damage, and you have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. This is going to let us empower the attacks for our Q and W. Our final level 1 feature is going to be Unarmored Defense, which gives you an AC of 10 plus your dex and con modifiers, as long as you're not wearing armor. Second level Barbarians gain Reckless Attack, which is exactly how we roll. On your first attack, you decide whether to attack recklessly or not. If you do, you get advantage on all attacks that turn. However, you give advantage to attacks against you until the start of your next turn as well. We're going to be tanky AF by the end of this, so go ham, you'll be fine. We also get Danger Sense. This gives you advantage on all dexterity saving throws against you that you can see. Level 3 Barbarians choose their primal path. We're going to unleash the full potential of Dominus with the Storm Herald. Storm Heralds choose a terrain to embody, and obviously we'll honor Shurima by going Desert. This gives us a 10-foot storm aura. Anytime you enter your rage, all other creatures within your aura take 2 fire damage. Now this doesn't seem like much, however you can reactivate this every turn you're raging as a bonus action. So right now, a sick combo would be using your action to Giant's Might, your bonus action to Rage, and then Action Surge into a 2-attack strike with Sweeping Attack. Or save the Action Surge for your next turn after activating these 2 abilities and go for a 5-attack strike, truly Calling the Meek. I would consider the build mostly online at this point. We need to grab our E in a few levels, but other than that, we're pretty much there. 4th level Barbarians unlock an ability score improvement. Our strength score is odd at the moment, so we'll grab a feat here. Slasher bumps our strength by 1 and gives us a few benefits. Once per turn, when we hit a creature with slashing damage, we can reduce its speed by 10 feet until the start of our next turn. And whenever we score a crit, that creature has disadvantage on all attack rolls until the start of our next turn. Level 5 Barbarians also get extra attack, but we got it from Fighter already, so disregard. We do get fast movement though, giving us a 10 feet bonus to our movement speed. 6th level Barbarians gain Storm Soul. This gives our Chosen Storm a passive effect at all times even when we're not raging. For Desert, we get resistance to fire damage and can ignore extreme heat. Also, you can straight up ignite any flammable object that isn't being worn or carried. Lot of roleplay potential with that last one. Level 7 Barbarians gain Feral Instinct, which gives us advantage on initiative rolls. Also, if you get surprised, you can still act on the first turn as long as you enter your rage first thing. At one of my tables, my friend's Barbarian actually one-shot the Ambusher by rolling a higher initiative and raging. Combat was basically over before it began, but it was a really cool moment for all of us. We're also going to leverage Tasha's here to pick up our E Slice and Dice with Instinctive Pounce. As part of the bonus action to Rage, you can move up to half your speed. Our final level in Barbarian is going to give us an ability score improvement. We're done with feats, so it's time to just pump up those rookie number stats. We'll start with 2 points into our strength, maxing it out. Alrighty, back over to Fighter to get a few more improvements to the build. We actually get back-to-back ability score improvements. We're going to even out our Constitution and Dexterity with 1 point each. Level 7 Rune Knights unlock the Runic Shield feature. As a reaction, you can use some rune magic to force an attacker to reroll any attack made against an ally. You have charges this equal to your proficiency bonus, but they don't come back until you finish a long rest. 8th level fighters pick up another ability score improvement. We're going to angle towards maxing our Constitution with 2 more points. Spoiler alert, we're going to be thick. Level 9 fighters gain Indomitable. This lets you take any failed saving throw and give it a reroll. When you do this though, you have to use the new roll, and it only recharges on a long rest, so keep that in mind. 10th level Rune Knights learn Great Stature. This scales your passive height by 3d4 inches, reflecting your ascended form even more. More importantly though, your Giant's Might bonus damage scales up to 1d8 instead of 1d6. Level 11 fighters pick up an improved extra attack. Now we can get off 3 attacks per action instead of 2. Action surging and using sweeping attack will give us 7 attacks, giving us the best version of our Q. 12th level fighters get the final ability score improvement for the build. We're going to max out the rest of our con score with 2 more points, bringing our hit point maximum to 232. Alright, now that we've completed the build, let's see how we did. First, the good. We have Renekton down pat, an insane crocodile who has 1 speed, and that's into the fray slaughtering. We have a very strong damage profile with all of our additional damage. And finally, we got Renekton's ult down perfectly. Dominus is going to be sick to pull off in-game and is really going to be impactful at the table. Now the bad. Unfortunately, we only have 1 combat superiority die. That means only 1 stun per rest. We also didn't get a lifesteal component on our Q. We can get both of those things, but I think it'd compromise the core of the character to do so, and I'm glad we ended up where we did. So, what'd you think? I've included a link to this build via D&D Beyond in the description below, as well as Amazon links to the books used in the build. If you enjoy this type of content, please consider supporting us on Patreon. We have a few awesome rewards, including access to our Discord community and monthly homebrew releases. We plan on churning out 1 League champ every week. Thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll catch you on the Rift, or in the Forgotten Realms.